Hello, my name's Tom Douch and I'm the Chair of the Murrumbidgee Local Health District Board. I've been in that position since July this year. I'd like to welcome you to this annual public meeting. Even though we have to do it virtually, it's still good that you're able to attend and participate in an important event for Murrumbidgee. Hopefully next year we might be able to do a bit of face-to-face as well, but I suspect this virtual component will always remain with us because it gives some people an opportunity to attend and participate who probably don't have time otherwise to get to see us. I'd also like to take the opportunity at this stage to say thank you and to acknowledge my board. They've been very supportive of me and I thank them for that, but I also thank them for the work that they've done in undertaking the role of the board. Each of my directors has been asked in the past, and I've been asked too, what does the Murrumbidgee Local Health District Board do? Now, I could give you a pretty detailed explanation based on the Health Act, but in essence, we're here to supervise and monitor the Murrumbidgee Local Health District. It's an important function, and all my directors live here in the area and are drawn from a wide array of perceptions and experiences that contribute to the good running of the board and the good conduct of its function. One of our key jobs is to oversee the development and then approve the strategic plan for Murrumbidgee. Now, we have a new strategic plan that's just been approved this year, which covers the period from 2021 to 2026. I don't want to use this opportunity to go into it. It's not a very large document at all, but it is on our website. I'd really urge you to have a look at it, to find it on the website and read through it, and so you can understand then where we're trying to take the organisation as we move into the future. Now, traditionally a public meeting like this has been an opportunity to go through the achievements of Murrumbidgee over the last year or so and to present to you our financial reports. I'm going to leave that to the expert hands of our Chief Executive Jill Ludford and to the Chief Financial Officer Kevin Lawrence. But rather what I'd like to do is concentrate a little bit more on some of the themes that are coming out for our future. I'd like to start by concentrating, obviously I think, on COVID. Murrumbidgee, like most health agencies, has been engaged in a war against COVID throughout 2021, well, really for the last 2 years or so. And it would be fair to say that we have been challenged. Not to the same extent as, say, Sydney or even the far west of New South Wales. We're all well aware of what they have faced. And we in Murrumbidgee have been fortunate. We've had the opportunity to achieve solid vaccination rates and avoid rampant infection rates. So we have been very lucky, and this has put us in a strong position to learn to live with COVID as we move into 2022. But I want to caution you, we're not in an invulnerable position. Experience from overseas has shown us that we need to remain vigilant. We need to act safely and protect ourselves by doing things such as hand washing, wearing a mask and staying a safe distance apart. And importantly, we do need to ensure that we are vaccinated and that we seek boosters when we become available. In short, we've got to remain alert to symptoms, we've got to remain careful and vigilant, and we've got to seek testing whenever necessary. That's what living with COVID will be like. But what worries me most is that the possibility rather in 2022 that while we are coping with COVID, living with COVID, that we may see a resurgence of the flu. This year and indeed last year have been pretty good from a flu point of view, and we think that's because we've been doing the things like hand washing and so on. The possibility of a resurgent flu, though, hasn't been missed by our planners and our clinicians. And what we have learnt from 2021 is that the New South Wales Health family has an immense capacity, an enormous capacity to adjust, to surge resources and to assist areas that are in crisis as the situation demands. Sadly though, the media, often searching for a story, has tended to highlight problems and difficulties which in turn can lead to uncertainty and even a loss of faith within our community. The reality is, with regard to COVID, we have done well. Sure, we have scrabbled, but that's what happens in a war. Sometimes you do have to scrabble around a little bit, but we have done better than most other places in Australia and indeed in the world. Scrabbling or scrambling is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it's a sign of our agility to move resources around to cope with the situation as it requires. But all this has been done with some cost. And in particular, the demands on our workforce have been quite immense. And they do deserve our praise and our support. I think they've done a great job thus far. They're up for a big job, I suspect, in 2022, and we should acknowledge that. They have been a rock. COVID is not over. We must all avoid becoming complacent about COVID, particularly as we go through 2022. And each of us must stay current with matters as they develop and maintain a good access to information, to accurate information as it becomes available. We must seek to deal with facts and not resort to gossip. And that point leads me to the next challenge that we face within Murrumbidgee for 2022. Apart from workforce and resources and finances, we face the constant challenge of communicating effectively with our community. The provision of timely, accurate and authoritative summaries is often distorted and even compromised by other agencies with their own roles and their own responsibilities and their own perspectives. It can be compromised by media sources that are just looking for that big story. Social media, where it's often hard to distinguish between fact and fiction. And indeed advice that we might receive over the back fence, which might be accurate but probably isn't. So communication will be a daily challenge for us as we go into 2022. We understand that challenge and we will strive to provide you, our community, with the best possible information that we can. The board during 2021 has undertaken a period of self-reflection, and it's caused us to consider cultural recognition and cultural leadership. So I'd like to stress the importance of culture today. Murrumbidgee invests a lot of time and energy into providing its services in a culturally appropriate way. We recognise the array of different cultures that form our community. And the board is giving cultural leadership close consideration and will continue to do that by considering it at our first meeting in 2022. We want good cultural practices to be characteristic of Murrumbidgee. We do not want culture to stand in the way of anyone receiving good optimal care, health care. We do not want culturally inappropriate actions to disrupt our workforce from providing you with that good quality health care. What we are seeking is that anyone, regardless of their cultural background, that anyone who needs health care will feel respected, will feel recognised, will feel listened to, and will receive appropriate care that is timely and of the best possible standard. Murrumbidgee values the cultural diversity of our community, but I would like to make a special mention of one particular group of people, and that is our Aboriginal peoples, our Aboriginal community, who have inhabited these lands for eons. We have a strong desire to improve Aboriginal participation, particularly at the board level within Murrumbidgee. We have advocated with New South Wales Health very strongly, and indeed with the Minister, for an Aboriginal representation on our board. And although no decision has been made yet, I am very hopeful that in 2022 we will see an increased Aboriginal participation on the board. I'm excited by that, and the rest of the board is excited by that. It will be a great move. I mentioned workforce earlier. COVID has placed Murrumbidgee under enormous strain when it comes to workforce. Workforce shortages and difficulties are being reported just about everywhere in our economy. They don't just apply to health, and they don't just apply to Murrumbidgee. We're alert to these difficulties and these stresses, and I'm pleased to say that the search to find innovative workforce solutions is well underway. The workforce executive within MLHD are a very talented team, and the issue of workforce has been a high priority throughout 2021 and will remain so in 2022. The solutions to workforce, though, are not just a matter of spending more money to employ more people. In fact, Murrumbidgee now employs more people by about 2.5% than it did at the start of 2021. But rather, the solutions to workforce revolve around us recognising and using skills in new ways, thinking about the responsibilities of individuals and how we can change those, being an attractive employer, and being agile in our solutions as we apply those to the workforce. We've got a lot of work to do here, but I'm quite confident that we're on the path to making some great successes. Now, the board has had a number of areas of focus beyond COVID, culture, and the workforce. And one of these areas is that we are seeking to understand our financials far more closely than perhaps we've ever done. Broadly speaking, our budget are the funds that we are given from the federal government and the state government. And the amount of money that we're given is really the result of a series of formulas and criteria which are applied in good faith, but represent or determine the amount of money that we receive. Until now, we've had very little option but to accept that. But we have developed a view that such formulas and criteria do not necessarily recognise the unique characteristics of Murrumbidgee. So in 2022, we intend to throw a different analytical framework over our financials. And if a new way of budgeting emerges, then we will take our analysis to New South Wales Health in the first instance. Now, I'm not forecasting that this is some sort of battle with New South Wales Health, not at all. In fact, we have a very good relationship with New South Wales Health, who work with us, as I say, in good faith. But what we are trying to do is seek to understand things in greater detail than ever before and develop a well-researched, fully detailed and cogent case to ensure that the funding that comes to Murrumbidgee is fair and is reasonable. The board has also been keen to pursue discussion as to the nature of future care. This is a little bit longer term. If anything, COVID has shown us that people who are unwell can often get good care by being supported out of hospital. For example, Murrumbidgee has provided comprehensive care and quality care at home, and for others it's been provided in supported motel accommodation. This has been a similar story across the nation, across the state and the nation. And we know that where possible, most people prefer to stay at home and to be cared for rather than spend their time in a hospital. Now, we know also that if we invest in measures to keep people out of hospital, then that will lead to better health outcomes overall. If we can avoid serious disease by starting treatment early, for example, before a condition becomes too advanced and requires some dramatic intervention. We're also seeing new methods of surgery develop. For example, one that I've cottoned onto is hip surgery, where the time that you have to spend in hospital after an operation is dramatically reduced. It is the best care. So a lot of things are on the plate there about where a hospital sits these days. So it's that future of hospital-based care that we're looking at very strongly. There will always, of course, be people and conditions that warrant treatment in a hospital, but there are those new options on the horizon, and we want to be sure we understand those. We're in the very early days, of course, of considering these issues, and we will not rush change, but it is right that we look to the future with open minds and consider all the possibilities. Now, I know that even though I've said we're looking to the future and considering all sorts of possibilities as we aim to become more efficient and more effective with resources, I know that the moment some health bureaucrat says that, then communities will immediately start to worry that services are going to be cut in some way. So let me reassure you, Murrumbidgee, the MLHD, does not have the authority to cut any services, and we don't aspire to cut any services. We simply aspire to give you the best quality care and to be as efficient and effective as we possibly can with the resources that we have. And we don't care whether you live in Wagga, Ungary, or here in Young, where I live. We are seeking to give you the most efficient care and maintain good quality care. That's our aim. I'd like at this stage to make a note about the local health advisory committees. They are an important component in this whole process of going forward, because everything I've said relies on communication between us and the community, and indeed between the community and us. I know that the process of keeping the LHACs informed has been a little bit, well, let's say, mucked around by COVID. But I want to stress here and today that the LHACs remain an important function within Murrumbidgee, and we stress the importance of those, and we'll be looking to keep the vigour within the relationship and move things along. Their role in communication is vital as far as I'm concerned. Now, a final note, if I may. My appointment as chair follows the many years of service of my predecessor, Gail Murphy. Her enthusiasm, her energy, her keenness to advance the best possible for Murrumbidgee are well known and deserve acknowledgement today. I've got to say, it's a little bit daunting to follow in Gail's footsteps, noting how widely she is respected around the region. Gail certainly deserves wide and high acclaim for all that she has done. It would be remiss of me not to make mention of her today. So I say this: thank you, Gail Murphy. On behalf of Murrumbidgee, thank you for your service, and thank you for your considerable endeavours over the last, well, I think decade or so. In turn, I'd like to thank you, our community, for attending today. Thank you for your interest in being here, and therefore your interest in how we deliver healthcare within the Murrumbidgee. And thank you for your ongoing efforts to remain engaged with MLHD. I wish you all the best as we move into the festive season. I wish you all the best for 2022, and I urge you all to stay safe.